Hi there, City Biz audience. I'd like to introduce you all to a good friend of mine and a great citizen who's doing great work for our country, Mo Effron. And unlike most of my interviews, for full acknowledgement, I should acknowledge that Mo leads a program called Citizen Connect, which is a program of the Bridge Alliance, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Bridge Alliance. But Mo, as co-founder and director of Citizen Connect, pretty much runs that part of the business. So thank you for your time, Mo. Appreciate having the opportunity to spread your message to a wide City Biz audience.
Well, thank you, David, not only for this opportunity, but obviously for the opportunity to pursue Citizen Connect as an initiative of the Bridge Alliance.
You're quite welcome. And I probably should start with a little history, because most of the people I interview have careers in the democracy government field or work or bridging work. They are executive directors and paid for 30, 20, 10 years, yet you came to us with a long and distinguished career in software and digital marketing, a long career in with publishers such as Ziff-Davis and other organizations, and you started disc magazines and worked with many technology groups. So I guess my first question is, how did you jump from that seemingly totally unrelated to healthy self-governance to the work you're doing now with Citizen Connect?
Well, that's an excellent question, David, and it's one I've asked myself, more than once. But as you point out, I really spent my working career, as a business technologist, and I like to joke that I had the privilege to be part of two different revolutions, even within my own lifetime. One being the microcomputer, and the other, of course, being the internet. So I go back some ways with technology, and in those experiences, I had the chance to see how technology could be used both for good and for ill. And so as I began to transition away from full-time work, I really wanted to find something that allowed me to use my skills as a technologist for good, and particularly for social and political good. And so I started looking around at what was happening, in the democracy space, and looked at the issue of really divisiveness and the fact that the media and politicians would have us believe we're more divided than in fact we are. And as I was sort of pursuing that question, I had the good fortune to cross paths with the Bridge Alliance, and specifically with Debbie Molyneux, who was executive director at that time. And it happened in conversations with Debbie Lynn about this issue of polarization and the disconnect between what citizens wanted and what we were getting. She shared with me an idea that had been kicking around for a while at the Bridge Alliance, which was the notion of creating some kind of a front door to the pro-democracy movement, a way to make it easier for citizens to discover opportunities for civic engagement, and also make it easier for them to take a first step. And so as we explored that idea, I thought to myself, this is right up my alley. I mean, I can help make this happen. I know how to do this, which is how to build a website and how to develop an audience for it. And so that was the genesis of Citizen Connect. And it turned out to be, a wonderful marriage of my experience in technology, with the opportunity to bend that technology towards a better social justice.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious, and I wonder if you run into the same problem as I do, coming from the business world and not being involved in democracy. Do people, and you tell them about Citizen Connect and your desire to get citizens involved, do people tell you that you're just wasting your time, that with all the money in politics and the corruption and the divisiveness, Mo, how can you possibly make a difference? Do you get that?
Yeah. No, listen, David, that's, a question I ask myself as well. Am I really, spending my time and energy in the most productive way? But I do have a fundamental faith in the idea that democracy is a verb, that by which I mean that democracy requires, involvement and action on the part of all of us as citizens. And that can run the gamut from small acts of kindness to our neighbors to more dramatic acts of civil activation. But whatever it is, I think at the end of the day, it's critically important if we're going to have a healthy and well functioning democracy that citizens be involved, actively involved. And so, my attitude is if I can contribute to that even in some small way. I'm not going to get Taylor Swift's level of engagement and get millions of followers to take action. But if I can even get thousands, tens of thousands of fellow Americans to do something, then I'm making a positive contribution. And so, in that regard, the sort of mission of Citizen Connect and the whole principle behind it is to make it easier both for citizens to know what kinds of opportunities for positive civic action exist, and then to find one that resonates with them. Make it easy for them to do that. So that's our goal.
And how's that process work? How do they find you? And once they do find Citizen Connect, do you give them choices? Do they go to attend events? Do they find out what's most interesting to them? Tell me a little about how it works.
Happy to do so. One of the things we've really been focusing on, in this year, particularly because it's an election year, is exactly the question of how do we reach more citizens? Because we've had, the good fortune over the last few years to build a very robust platform and database. We have over 600 organizations, and they're, continuously updating the events and the great content that they offer. So there's a rich repository that we have. And then the challenge is, okay, how do we get more people to come and explore it and discover it? And I think the keys there are multiple channels. And this is where having a background in digital marketing comes in handy, because there's no silver bullet. There's no one thing, but there can be multiple things that you can explore. And a couple that we're really focusing strongly on, in this year is getting our community to collectively amplify one another's work more. So in other words, instead of each organization just working in its own silo and doing its own thing, we're looking to get more of our member organizations to co-promote each other. So one has an event, let's get another 20 organizations to promote that event, and vice versa. And that kind of reciprocity, offers the opportunity for everybody to get more of an audience, get their message out to more people. Another thing we're doing, and kudos to you, David, for facilitating this, is starting to work with news organizations on how can we better integrate the great content that our movement has and the great opportunities for action that our movement has into the news ecosystem, so that instead of just reading an article and saying, "Damn it, that really stinks. I wish something could be done about that," that you actually have a next step you can take. And so we've been, privileged to work closely with the Fulcrum on looking at a connection between, news about what's happening and then actions that can be taken, and looking to do that with other news organizations as well. And then the third and last is just the election itself. We obviously have a lot of work to do around that.
Well, that concept of the connection between the Fulcrum and Citizen Connect actually came to me years ago. I used to be involved in the Aspen Institute and used to go to the Ideas Festival for years. And there's no shortage of inspirational, great ideas. But Walter Isaacson at the time was the president of Aspen Institute, and he created something called the Action Festival, turning the ideas into action. So I think that's the principle we're trying to work on now. Connecting citizens, getting them interested, offering a new idea and concept to them, and then hopefully they'll become involved. I'm really interested in the subject you brought up because it relates to the Bridge Alliance idea of when we first started, there were all these great organizations working independently, separately. But the basic principle from a a collective impact study that was written in Stanford years ago was that no matter how well funded and managed they are, they need to work together. So tell us a little about how what your theory of amplification and how you get organizations working together through Citizen Connect to try to raise all boats and expand everybody's power. How's that work?
Well, I really have to give a particular shout out, to my colleagues Brian Clancy and Willow Paul on this front, because they're the ones who've really been, driving this initiative on behalf of Citizen Connect. But it's one that we've all, sort of, developed together and, deeply believe in. And it's a gradual process, and I think that's part of the aspect of it that's a little frustrating. You would think this seems like so obvious and sort of like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't everybody say, sure, we'll amplify their stuff, they'll amplify our stuff, it's a win-win. But the reality is it takes time to build relationships, to build trust, to demonstrate value, and to basically build the relationships that not only initiate but sustain that kind of a collective effort. And so, that's the thing we started working on last year, and we've been continuing to develop it. We've got some 20 colleagues right now who are actively involved, and we're looking to expand that even further. Uh, and then there are initiatives where, I personally think we should get the whole community on board, one of those being the 2024 election. And it would seem to me that every organization in our community should be supporting the notion of an inclusive and safe 2024 election. And to my mind, whatever kind of work you're doing, whether it's bridging or electoral reform or civic education, you need to have a functioning democracy if your work is going to get anywhere. And that means having citizens who are, voting at their choice, for the direction of our country. So I personally am looking to spend some time in this election year trying to rally as many of our community organizations as I can to collectively support some very simple, basic reference information for the election: how to get registered, how to vote, how to work the polls, how to promote trust in elections and nonviolence in our election process, and third and last, how to define good sources of information, how to really get knowledgeable about issues and opportunities so that you can be an informed voter.
Well, that's not just an idea, because if you go to the main site for Citizen Connect is citizenconnect.us, but I believe you were instrumental in creating a page at citizenconnect.us/vote or voters, I can't remember which. And on that page, citizens can see how they can get involved, how to get registered, how to vote smart, how to work the polls. We certainly need more volunteers doing that, and how to get other Americans to vote. So, how's that initiative working? Is it
Very true, David. I mean, one of the things we've worked very hard at Citizen Connect is to make things as simple as possible and to give people as direct a path as possible to, taking an action. So as you point out, one of the things we did actually in the 2022 midterms was put up a simple single web page with 4 simple things one could do relating to the election. And we're using that same page, citizenconnect.us/vote, singular, VOTE, to provide the same kind of information for the 2024 election. And then we're putting up 2 additional single pages, very purpose focused, one about nonviolence. So it's citizenconnect.us/nonviolence, with information about organizations working on trust in elections, working on peace building for the elections and the like. And last but not least is a page, citizenconnect.us/disinformation, which is about good information sources. How do you judge information sources? How do you find balanced information? How do you hear both sides of an issue? So all we want to do is not direct people to any candidate, to any party, or how to vote, but simply say, here are some 3 good sources of information for things you can do to support a safe and peaceful and inclusive 2024 U.S. election.
Well, that leads me perfectly.
So I'm hopeful that that's going to be useful to people.
Yeah, well, you should be, and I think it will. And you just use the term "both sides," that people need to listen to both sides. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Citizen Connect is involved in something called National Week of Conversation, which is involved in having Americans listen to all sides of issues. And is that related to Citizen Connect in some manner? How's that work?
Oh yeah, very much so. One of the other things that we've been able to do because we've built this wonderfully robust database of organizations and their events and their content is be a resource to the movement and to various key initiatives in the movement. And certainly, National Week of Conversation, run by the Listen First Coalition, is one of those. And we've had the privilege to be a key partner going back to 2021. And so this year for their 2024 event, which is really in less than 3 weeks, it starts in mid-April, we've been able to provide some critical infrastructure, both in terms of promoting the events that they're having, both the films, that they have a whole film festival that they're doing, as well as the signature experiences that they're promoting, and provide a single registration system so that everybody who participates can now be part of a larger community that the coalition can be in ongoing communication with. So we're very proud of being able to provide that kind of a service, and we're always looking for opportunities for other organizations in our movement, other collaborations in our movement to be supportive, both in terms of promotion and in terms of operations where we can.
So, as someone who's been very active of late, and you work hard to bring citizens together and not to get involved, but also have them listen to each other better, to find the best from all sides of the issues. Do you have any insights as to why we're in this divisiveness we're in now? You think it's a social media related thing? You think it's politicians? Do you think it's just the ups and downs of political cycles? What any insights as to what's the cause of this division?
Well, you're asking a very difficult question, David, as you know, and one that is puzzling and troubling a lot of people, at this moment, in our democracy. I don't feel like I have any, magic, not even magical, but any, special, answers. I think there are a lot of factors, in play, and I think that there are a lot of, difficulties that we're up against. But I think one of the most significant ones, as you were alluding a moment ago, is that we're increasingly in silos, as individuals and in our own echo chambers. And I think that if we're not able to break out of that and start to, both listen to one another, talk to one another, and then most importantly, work together, as citizens, as ordinary citizens. I'm not talking about, as power brokers or, billionaires or what have you. That's the key to finding our way out. And so opportunities to do that, whether it's, reading both sides of an issue, whether it's being in dialogue, with folks of differing opinions, whether it's simply joining with your neighbors, to undertake a community effort. I mean, it's those kinds of ways we make contact, we establish contact with each other, that I think we will help us find our way forward. And so I hope to some small degree, Citizen Connect can contribute to that.
Well, we're all hopeful of that. One last question on a personal note. I like to get a sense when I talk to people. When you were younger and growing up in junior high or high school or college, I know you went into business, but did you have any strong passion for democracy or government at that time? Were there any influences in your life that you think led you in this direction? Any thoughts on that?
Um, I mean, I always voted, David, from the, day I was old enough to do so. So I've always cared about, politics. I've always, followed politics. I was not, a political activist, per se. But I think maybe, the moral underpinning of it, if I can say so, is my religious background. I mean, I come from a tradition, that believes very strongly in a responsibility to help heal the world. And, I think that is one of the both opportunities and obligations that, we have in our lifetime to whatever extent we can act on it. And so, when I finished my time raising a family, supporting that family, providing for, my wife and, children, I thought, I want to find something that lets me focus more energy on that specifically. And I think that does come from, the religious background on which I was raised.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the work you've done for the Bridge Alliance. A little uh, enlightened self-interest there, but thank you for our country and the optimism and the outlook. Democracy certainly is not a spectator sport, and your theory it's more than a theory. It's now a real entity that is getting more citizens involved. So thank you for everything you've done, Mo. I very much appreciate it.
David, thank you. And thank you, CityBiz, for giving me this opportunity.